and they're giving advice to the company about all kinds of different things, relationships with employees and customers. Is that?
Okay, my name is Jim Bologowski. I'm a captain in the United States Navy. I work at a command out in Naval Station Everett near in the state of Washington, north of Seattle, near the Canadian border. But what I really do in the Navy is I'm a ship driver, I'm a surface warfare officer, and a nuclear power engineer. So we power the power plant down below in the engine room with the nuclear power, and it powers everything, makes the ship go, and gives us lights, makes the showers work, and also shoots the missiles, makes the radar work, and all the important things about it. Why did I choose this? Well, I want to do something bigger than myself. I thought it was important. I think this country matters. And everybody in the military has an intangible reason why. And my view is I want to keep the bad guys away from our country. And I'd rather go fight over there than fight over here. And so my dad was in the Army. So my experience is I want to join the Navy, see the world. I've been to 60 countries, 60 countries. Some fun, some not fun. And but while I visited them, like my dad in the Army, my siblings lived in Germany for a number of years, so they got to see Europe because they lived there, they were stationed there. It's a bunch of different ways you can be in the military. But I'm just not here about the Navy. I know a lot of served with foreign Navy militaries. I've served with the other services, so like there's Army, Air Force, Coast Guard. There's now Space Force. I mean, how cool is that? But there's other services, believe it or not, public health service. They keep us safe health-wise. And even the Oceanographic Administration, they actually make it so we can pick whether they're uniform service. Things, you can talk about it, you can serve as an enlisted person, and you learn technical trades, or you can be an officer where you go to college and you learn a field where you can help be in charge of the enlisted. Now, the one thing that's neat about the military is a lot of times you see in the movies, it's about the Navy SEALs kicking in doors or driving ships or tanks or something like that. But the military needs all sorts. They need doctors, lawyers, chaplains, believe it or not. We have a lawyer like him said they wear a uniform because of stuff we got to do to keep our sailors squared away. And so there's so many different things. And they train you to do all of it. That's the beauty of the military. Is they send you to school, and the last part is that if you go in the military, they can give you schooling for college. You get 36 months of free schooling for you, your spouse, or your kids. You're able to give it to your kids, and medical, dental, life insurance. I'm ready to sign you up. For free, you guys, yeah, right. We're not. Look at it.
Well, I'm Marissa Claire Montgomery, and I am a clinical forensic counselor by title. I think I've been doing that for 10 years, maybe. That sounds right. But my sole job is to really just speak on behalf of the victims that we have come in, or special victims unit or sex trafficking or anything like that. My job. I have a counterpart that work with just criminals, which I would love to do that too. But my job is to speak on behalf of the victims. I kind of go to court on their behalf, especially for our littles or our babies that may have went through some trauma or something like that. Like I have to go, talk about all the bad that was done. So yeah, I've been doing it for 10 years. It's probably longer than that. And I have a lot of degrees. Sandy will tell you that. I don't necessarily work in that field now. I do still do assessments and all those things. But I also have like a full government job that I do, and it kind of just goes hand in hand. But yeah, that's what I do.
Oh wow. Hi, I'm Kiddis AC, and I am in real estate. I get to help people in our community, whether it's purchasing, selling, investing, relocating, renting a home. I also do commercial, but I get to help people reach their goals in purchasing a home, which is super exciting. Educating them on the importance of it, the wealth that it brings families when you do purchase a home, and how important it is to understand that, and just educate them on the finance. So they need a lender, so getting in contact with the lender, and then once we're going through the process, understanding why it's important to get an inspection, to know what's going on with the home, and all that good stuff. So I've been doing that for some time. I love it. It's great helping people, and there's a lot of room in real estate for you to add on to it. So there's inspectors, there's lenders, there's surveyors that need to go out and survey the property, especially when there's lots of land. There's just so many avenues in being in real estate, so you get to be part of it.
Well, I'm listening to all these incredible titles and messages, and I'm wondering if I showed up at the right table.
Yes, you did.
I did. Okay, well, my name's Cameron Brown, and I am probably not nearly as qualified as these folks to do these incredible things. So I took the easy way out and started a business. I've started a few businesses throughout the years. I kind of come from a family of small town business owners, small bit farmers, loggers, all that kind of stuff. And was blessed to have a great work ethic instilled in me when I didn't necessarily want it to be, but grateful for it now. And currently, I own a company called The Free Agency, which kind of stemmed from some sales work I did for another business that I built. And essentially we do exteriors work. So think about anything that goes on outside your house, gutters, roofs, shingles, or siding, fences, decks, all that kind of stuff. Our company, my company is more of an umbrella company that subcontracts out the actual construction guys, the labor, and we're the friendly face and the people that are organized and know how to communicate that you get to deal with as a homeowner. So that's something that's I've kind of developed over the last few years. And also I co-founded back in 2019 the Men Forge coaching program, which is where my passion lies. Over the years, I've been, again, very fortunate to associate with a lot of small business owners, a lot of great men that have had a huge impact on my life. And I saw an opportunity along with a good friend of mine to kind of fill the gap that we see in society in developing young men into strong leaders. And so we started a program that we do live events, one-on-one coaching, even a podcast, all kinds of different fun stuff like that. And that's really what I'm most passionate about and where our future lies. So that's me.
Daniel Francis, I'm a lieutenant with the Chattanooga Police Department, and I currently oversee our support services division. I am responsible for our technology division. You think about anything that goes out technology wise to the officers, their laptop computers, body worn cameras, in-car camera systems, anything like that. We oversee that. I also oversee our property and evidence division, our records division, and our court liaison divisions. In the past, I have supervised the downtown area as well as East Chattanooga midnight shift, and I was a homicide investigator once upon a time as well. So at the police department, there are just a number of different things you could be involved in. You could be a canine handler. You could be, one of my favorites is a roadside survey taker, where we ask people really interesting questions like, you know, how fast you were going, and do you know why I pulled you over, and where are you coming from, where are you going? That our traffic guys, they write a lot of the tickets you see up on the interstate. Our traffic division does that. We have a DUI division. We have homicide investigators. We have our special victims unit. We have crime scene investigators, property crimes investigators, our special operations guys, like the SWAT team or the hostage negotiation team. So there are multiple different things that you can pursue within the department.
All right. Well, my name is Sam Martin, and I'm a middle school teacher. I'm a STEM teacher, which means STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. I also, at my school, we just got a Volkswagen eLab grant, so we have a digital fabrication lab. And digital fabrication basically means I have a lot of cool tools that are run by computers. The computers don't do the work, you do the work and tell the computers what to do, and then they do the precision work. We have a lot of 3D printers, vinyl cutters. We have a large laser engraver. We have a computer controlled CNC router table. But I say I have a problem solving class. I put kids in a room with tools and materials and ask them to get creative to solve different problems. Sometimes they're very simple, sometimes they're high level problems. So recently we've asked students to rethink just a six-pack holder instead of having the plastic rings that endanger our environment and our animals. We asked them to come up with an eco-friendly way to do that. So with a few household items, some cardboard, some tape and string, they came up with some pretty creative ideas. We've also had students do scale models of how they would redevelop a local area block, like in Red Bank at their city park. How they might like to see that redeveloped and reused. I have a fun class and I have a lot of fun doing it. I didn't start in STEM. I do have a passion for technology. I started as a special education teacher. One thing about education, you can't beat the hours. You know, you might have to go in early, but when the final bell rings, you're usually out. So you work your 8 hours and you go home. But I love kids. I love helping kids. And as a special ed teacher, I got to help what I like to say are the knuckleheads, you know, that the kids that have a hard time kind of fitting in sometimes or getting the concepts and maybe they act out. I need somebody who can be there, who can guide them and help them develop over time. I really enjoy math. So I've had an opportunity to be a math teacher for a little while. I was an elementary librarian for a year. I've done a lot of different things. I was a principal at a local private school for a couple of years. I've been a technology coach where I helped Hamilton County transition to a one-to-one system where everybody, all students had either an iPad or a Chromebook, some kind of devices. So I've worn a lot of different hats in the 20 years I've been a teacher, but I think helping kids and really trying to help them develop into the best person they can be has always been the center of my calling. You know, it's not just a job; it's what I do because I want to. I will say there's a lot of great jobs up here. I don't know that I make the most money sitting here. I really don't. But I think I have fun. I think I'm rewarded. And I get summers off. So if you think you might want to be an educator, no matter what the subject is, give me a shot.
Thank you guys so much. Are there any questions for any of that anybody has? Great.
I'm guessing one of these.
It's been 6%.
That. All of them in their careers for going on this time, you go work to where they are. You could share the range in your profession, like what someone starting out in your area, career area, expect, and what can they work out to?
There's also 3 of them at the table that you can go online and find out what they make.
Yeah, you can do my name, that'll tell you what I'm making. It doesn't matter.
Sandy, I would throw in with that, why don't we throw out how much schooling maybe we had to go through to get our jobs?
Well, for a lawyer, the minimum amount of schooling you need is. Well, technically, there is a way to go without even having a bachelor's degree and sit for the bar, but results are typically not very good. And that's the hard way to do it. If you go to the normal route, there's a 4-year bachelor's degree, and then law school is a 3-year program. That gets you what's called a JD degree, a Juris Doctor degree. And that qualifies you to sit for the bar exam and become a practicing lawyer. If you want to do a highly specialized area of the law, for example, international business dealing with energy trading or some more advanced tax principles, there is an advanced degree called an LLM that you can additionally year past that, and it's kind of like a PhD in the right areas. So you know, you got to get to high school, and then you got a minimum of 7 years in order to be out and practicing. And there are scholarship opportunities available, but that is it's an expensive career to get started. The Oh, we'd be getting jobs for new lawyers coming out of school, typically start in the $50,000 a year range. With some experience, that number climbs rapidly. The highest paid lawyers are lawyers that are working for large, several hundred lawyer law firms in big cities. Or lawyers that own their own company and have kind of the entrepreneurial thing going as well. And there's really not a cap on how much you can earn as an attorney. It's all based on the type of work you do, how much you work, and how good you are at it, and which reputation the community is.
Well, for the military, I'll give you two answers. If you choose an enlisted route, where you learn a technical trade. It's kind of like the military pays for all your schooling. It's kind of like going to Chat State for VOTEC in a way. You get about 1 to 2 years of schooling, depending upon what you choose. For an officer, you got to have a bachelor's degree, and I have an engineering degree. Since the Navy's a very technical thing, a ship is a big, gigantic piece of engineering. So the Navy prefers the technical degrees because of that. And I've taken, because of nuclear power, I've taken about 6 years of schooling after I graduated high school. While sailor would probably take 1 to 2 years. And sailor, the other one thing that's hard to explain in pay with the military is 2/3 of our pay is taxable, 1/3 is not. Because the US Constitution states clearly that the government must house and quarter its troops, which means that's not taxable. So our food and quarters are not taxed. But our pay is, because it's pay. And so that's a little bit of a benefit is the fact that, and we have access to commissaries like down in Huntsville, Redstone Arsenal, and they sell food at cost. They don't profit on the food. So they not only do they not tax your food, they give you a cheap place to buy it. So there's a lot of benefit to that, but the benefit is because we go to weird places and do weird things. And but for officers, so just to give you a sense of pay, because it's a little deceiving, like a young sailor or young soldier, they'll live in barracks on the base, so they won't even need lodging. So the military pays for it. And so trying to compare dollars is a little weird because sometimes the government just gives you stuff in the military that you don't actually like pay money for. But I'll spitball a number. A young sailor at a boot camp is going to make anywhere between like 25 and 35,000, but most of their life is taken care of, and then when you get and their pay can have this senior enlistment person who is like done 20 or 30 years, they'll make well over $100,000. But they've been in a while, so they earned it. Officers will start out in the 50 to 60,000 range, but they have a lot more. We get some of those allowances, and you'll make over 150,000, pushing 200 by the time you get to where I'm at. And it's just because you stayed here too long, or maybe they're like, I don't know. But engineering, I'll tell you this, we'll put a pitch in for engineering regardless of the uniform. I tell my kids this because engineering for the most part doesn't need a graduate degree to do your work. Because a master's in engineering is kind of useless and PhD is only needed to teach. And honestly, right now, the entry level for engineers, STEM, so that's why I'm mocking the STEM teacher down here, is that their entry level is $65,000 to $85,000 right out of college. And I have a daughter who made above the middle of that. She just graduated from Huntsville.
Also talk a little bit about the retirement because of enlisted.
Yeah, retirement. So, so the military is one of the last businesses, if you want to call it, that has an actual pension. For you kids, what's a pension? A pension is where they give you a paycheck as if you were still employed after you're done working. Not as much as when you were working, but it's a paycheck that just comes, and it's not like you have to go invest and buy stocks and all that kind of stuff. Now, the old military used to be, you had to work 20 years to get something. And if you only worked 19, you had nothing to show for it, believe it or not. But what the military just added a few years ago is they added a little baby 401k called thrift savings plan. But it's where you put money in, government puts money in, and you get a little bit. So they have a little bit that's you can invest. But even if you get out early, So if you folks go, I don't know if I want to do 20 years in the military, and if you just do 4 years, you have something to show. And plus, you get medical and life insurance, which you can buy it after you get out. And it's still a little bit cheaper. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a new VA clinic over on Shackelford. Well, when you've been a veteran means you served in the military, and you have any medical issues caused by the military, caused by your service, you get access to the Veterans Affairs clinics. So like my dad, he was big artillery guns, did the big cannons, he lost his hearing, so the VA pays for all his hearing aids. So that gives you an example of how they try to take care of it.
I went to school for a very long time. But, I mean, my kids can tell you, I love school, I just think learning is awesome. Genuinely, so I have a couple of master's degrees, I went into law, but on the forensic side, you gotta go to school for a long time. But I will say, you can easily come out making 6 figures, like, with no issue. Mainly because that field is not oversaturated. So when you do get out, it's a lot of people that want you. You can work for, I work for the government. I actually do. I was appointed by Governor Lee last year. So I can work for the government, I can work for the police department, I can work for anywhere with my forensics because it's needed. I can work on the side of the victims. I also am licensed criminologist, so I can work on the other side as well. So I would say it cost me. I have 7 degrees, and it cost me about $180,000. But because of the roles that I take within my career, all of that's paid back by the government. Because really, they'll do what's it called? Nonprofit public service loan forgiveness. And all you have to do is just work for I think 20 years, and then they pay it back from 15 years in.
I'm just taking it in. Okay, so with being in real estate, it's really all up to how much work you want to put into it. Some people think, oh, look I'm gonna show 3 houses and I'm gonna have money coming out of everywhere. It's just money. But no, real estate is a lot of time. When you get into, you can go to school, like at a college to get your license, but you can also just do it online. There's smaller schools that do it, so it doesn't take as many years as some of our peers here were in school for. It can take you as much time as you put into it. It can take you 6 months to complete the course. It can take you less, but you have to take a couple of tests. And you have to put a little into your business before you start making some money. So this is one of those where you put some money into yourself before you start seeing it come back. But you can make really whatever you want. It's how much time you put into it. So some people get into it and they think that it's just waking up and it's just saying, I'm an agent to everybody, that they're gonna know. No, you have deals that fall through on closing day. You have deals that you're helping buyers and sellers for months and months and months, and you may not get paid. So you have to plan. You have to plan to have money aside to continue your business in case you have time. But you can make over 100. You can make 30, 50. It's really up to how much you put into it, how much work, and you have to be disciplined in your time. You have to be disciplined in who you interact with, the type of clients you want, but you get to choose how much you make. It's up to the work that you put into it. Does that help? Do you guys have questions about that? But it really is how much you put into it. It doesn't just come to you. And you don't have a 9 to, you're not just going in 9 to 5 every day. It's working weekends, you're working late nights. If there's a deal going, you can't not work at night. Some people can walk that off, but if a deal is going crazy, you need to get it handled. So it's really about how much you want to make and why you're doing it. If you're doing it just to make money, you're probably not gonna make too much money and you're probably not gonna be the best and people aren't gonna like working with you, but if you're doing it because you want to help others and you see you have goals with that, not just the money side, you'll do well.
Well, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, being in real estate is very much an entrepreneurial endeavor. The great thing about being an entrepreneur is, you can make a lot, you can make zero. So it is, you mentioned it, people think, well, it's great because you have the freedom to work whenever you want to. Like, yeah, if you believe that, you're not gonna make a lot, right? You have to be self-motivated or disciplined or, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's hugely important. This is something I want to mention for everybody up here. I think what you'll notice the similarity in everyone is that, at least the best that I can tell, we're all doing something that we really enjoy. We really love. Some of us, I know Daniel very well. He was made to do what he does. I mean, there's very few people that can do what he does and have the temperament he has and the way he handles it. So that's really, really important. I don't make a great employee. It's not because I don't work hard or you wouldn't want me as an employee. I don't like being managed. So that's why I went the entrepreneurial route. And yeah. Also, I respect everything y'all do. I'm so grateful for it, but it would be tougher. Now, that actually might be the only environment where I could do it, because I understand the mission. But so as far as income, the cool thing about it from a today's day and age, and I'm gonna say kids, don't get offended, but you kids could be an entrepreneur right now. There's so many opportunities and so many ways to start your own business. And literally, I mean, you hear stories all the time about, kids in their teens or younger, making really strong 6 and even 7-figure incomes in some cases. Now, that's not, that's a small percentage and it takes a lot of work. Don't just look at the highlight reel. There's a lot of stuff that happens on the back end. But the things that I would encourage people, we get an opportunity to coach people in this arena a lot too, because a lot of the guys that we coach are entrepreneurs, and I think it's just a mindset that's attractive to what we do. But it's understanding that the biggest investment that I can make is in me. I have to continually be investing in myself. And I think many of these other careers, they have continued education, they have these plans. And so we're really big on continuing to grow ourselves, because I believe as an entrepreneur, not to speak in my experience, it is a constant endeavor of growing myself, understanding how to fill a need that there's a market for, and really understanding how to connect with people. The things that I've done, whether it's been in the construction world or in the coaching world or in e-commerce or whatever it may be, the thing that was always in common is that I was serving people. And I found an opportunity to serve people and add value to them, and they were willing to pay me for it, right? So then you can just determine how valuable you want to be, right? And I think you can become as valuable as you want to be, and you can make a lot of money. And again, you could make nothing, So if you like having fun and living on the edge a little bit, you should definitely start your own business. But then get really good at it and get around people that know how to run a business. And learn from, take mentorship from people that have been there, done that. As far as schooling goes, I actually originally schooled for electrical engineering. And I co-opted a couple of semesters in high school, matter of fact. And I realized, I don't know if I can do this. They keep telling me what time I'm gonna be here and when I can leave and all this kind of stuff. And there may be days I want to start earlier, and they won't let me in the door. Maybe days I want to come in later. So I actually squeezed 4 years of college into 6. I took a couple of victory laps and got out with a business management degree. Yeah, super senior, whatever that is. Yeah, well, it was a good time. So I decided to stick around and see what everybody else was doing. No, you had 7 degrees? I've got 2, but the interesting thing about it, they're actually the same. They just had a typo on the first one when they mailed it to me, so they sent me another one. So I got 2 degrees for the price of 1. So good times.
So with the police departments, you're not required to have anything other than a high school diploma. It is strongly encouraged and preferred that you do have a college degree. But you can apply with just the high school diploma. You're going to start off around the range of $50,000. And Mayor Kelly actually did a lot to move us toward that, because we were well below that up until last year. And if you stay at the patrol level or go to investigations or anything like that, your base salary, you'll max out around somewhere around $68,000 just at that level. And then as you move up, you become a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, a major, those types of things. There are pay increases, and that ceiling is higher on the way up. So in my current position, since you can Google it, I'm more than happy just to tell you, I make $82,000, and I'm the youngest lieutenant by years of service, but I'm not the youngest in grade, if that makes any sense. So I've been in the police department as a whole less time than any other lieutenant. And so our pay scale is based on your number of years at the department. So I make 82,738 or something like that. But we are also one of those rare breeds that we still have a pension. Here in Chattanooga, the Chattanooga Fire Department and the Chattanooga Police Department, we privately manage our own pension. We are not part of the city's general retirement. And so when I get done, I'll be done. I can be done at the age of 50 because I started when I was 23. And when I walk out the door, if I walk out the door at 50, I'll walk out the door with close to 70% of my highest salary for the rest of my life. So I'm pushing roughly $70,000 paid out, like the captain said, with really not having to do anything for the rest of my life. So that's a huge benefit. The city also covers certain injuries and stuff that you receive. There's federal legislation that covers any heart or lung related illness or injury that is not documented prior to your starting with the city. So if you start as a police officer or a firefighter and already have a documented heart or lung injury, they're not going to cover them for you. But and like for my case, I have high blood pressure now. The city covers that for the rest of my life. If I develop any other issues, they'll take that on as well for the rest of my life. So those things are definite benefits. We have our own city clinic that we go to. They have doctors and nurses, so if it's not an emergency, I can go to the clinic and it doesn't cost me a copay. I can take my family there. It doesn't cost me a copay. They run their own pharmacy, so a lot of times it's the more generic drugs, but oftentimes I don't have to pay anything for any type of prescription I need, or it's $2 or $4 or something pretty basic. And then I can also buy any over-the-counter things, vitamins, bandages, toothpaste, anything like that at cost there at the clinic as well. And so that's another benefit that we have. For me personally, I did go to college. I started college classes when I was 15. I was homeschooled all the way through high school. So I started dual enrollment at the age of 15. So when I graduated high school, I walked into my junior year of college. So I did about 2.5 years of college, and I finished college with a sign language interpreting degree. And much like Cameron here, in a lot of ways, we were put in the same thought. I literally went to college and said, I really don't want to study. I really don't want to do anything. So let me look at the catalog. Oh, I already know sign language. So that's what I'm doing. So it was to reduce the amount that I had to study is literally how I chose my degree. And so I finished up college and then went straight into the police department. I considered the military, but decided, and that I got married when I was 20. And my wife and I knew we wanted to have a larger family, and we just figured the logistics of possibly having to move a large family around fairly often was not going to be beneficial for us. And so that kind of helped my decision look toward the police department. I'm a third generation police officer. My father served as a police officer here in Chattanooga and made it all the way to captain as well. And through his mentorship, you're going to hear me use a lot of the same words that Cameron uses, and probably a lot of the same words you hear from Joe and Sandy as well. But through his mentorship, I was able to move up through the ranks at a very, very, very fast pace. So next month will be 10 years since my father passed away. At the time he passed away, I was a patrol officer. I was an investigator of homicide, but that's the level of patrol officer. And within those 10 years, I'm now pending a promotion to captain, potentially within the next year. And so it just is an unseemly pace. But that all came about because at his funeral, he and I used to argue about things. I thought he wasted a lot of time doing stuff for people and investing in people where he didn't need to. And at his funeral, I believe, I know you were there, and you guys were there as well. Thousands of people showed up. And I can remember standing at his casket and just thinking, okay, I understand now why you did what you did. I understand now the impact that you had, and you've heard several people here on the panel talk about, don't. Well, I know we're talking about salaries, but don't choose a career just because of the dollar sign that's attached to it. You need to know what that salary is, because you need to know when you can plan for your life, okay? Don't get me wrong, but the driving force as to why you choose a career field. When I started at the Chattanooga Police Department, the starting pay was $28,000 a year. All right, and something that they don't often talk about is, I told you my salary was 82,000. I bring home about 48% of what my actual pay is by the time I pay into my pension, I pay for my benefits, I do all these things. So my salary sounds great, but I really bring home, factor in about half of that. And you don't have to do all the things I do, like I do. But what I was trying to get across is with that is find mentorship, find someone who has the results that you want in that career field, and then go into a career field in which you feel like you can be most beneficial and used to help other people.
Yeah. Well, to be a school teacher, you need the minimum of a bachelor's degree, a 4-year degree. And then I did that and stopped at that point for, I guess I was a teacher for 13, 14 years before I decided to go back and get a master's. I went back and got a 2 years master's degree so I could get my administrator's license, because at that point as a teacher, you work underneath principals, and I had several principals, and at that point I kind of figured I knew how I wanted things done. I wanted to be the boss man. So if I could get my master's, I could be the boss, and then I could tell people what to do and they'll have to listen. And then I did that, and I got that master's, and I was a principal, and I realized I hated that. I hated that job. I mean, I didn't like my own homework, much less checking other people's homework. And, everybody, you can't make everybody happy. It wasn't for me. And so I'll piggyback off what you said. The best advice I ever got was choose a lifestyle, not a career, because in the end, it's just a job. I know vascular surgeons that have 2 lake houses, lots of boats, and have to schedule maybe getting a weekend to go to the lake. I know people that have great jobs, make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and don't get to see their kids. Did I mention I get summers off? I say that because I really enjoy going out with my kids. I love going to the music festival, but I like going out with my dogs and my kids in the creek and hiking around. And I was a landlord. I didn't mention, but I was a landlord for almost 20 years. I took some money I had set aside, and I bought a small rental house. And when they paid their rent, I didn't have to pay so much of my rent. If you know who Dave Ramsey is, or if you listen to him in their study of 10,000 millionaires, one of the largest groups that are millionaires end up being school teachers, because they save, they've invested into their home, they've paid off. It's not glamorous. It's not. I'm not going to drive around in a sports car, probably not. But I do have time that I can apply to making money in other ways, or I can choose to sit back and be happy with what I've got. And I have that freedom, and that's the lifestyle that I've chosen, and that's what I want. And when I'll also say this, and I think we've heard it across the panel. Kids, I would advise you, don't take student debt. If you can avoid student loans at all, get scholarships, get grants, get any way you can, but don't graduate with a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree or 3 years of a degree and you don't even graduate. And you find out that that's not for you, and it's not going to pay you the bills, and now you got $80,000, $100,000 in debt. I remember when I first started getting student loans, a guy stopped me on the street and said, "Hey man, can I get $1?" He said, "I got no money." I said, "Man, I can't wait to have no money, because here's zero and I'm way down here. I can't wait to pay my way up to zero." And so, but I can say that, I paid off my student loans. I'm good. I didn't have a whole lot. The government did do a little bit of government loan forgiveness, but don't count on that. But think about what you really want to do. Get out there and get some experience. Talk to people. You see somebody that's got a cool job, go talk to them. Find out. Make sure it's something you want to do. Get some volunteer time. Get some internship time. My daughter said she might want to be a park ranger. So, okay, maybe let's get you a job down at the aquarium. Let's go volunteer out in a state park. Let's see if that's what you want to do. Get close proximity to somebody that has a job that you think you might like. And then if you find out you don't like it, and you didn't take on a whole bunch of dinners, spend a bunch of money training for it. And then if you find out it is something you want, well, now you got somebody who can tell you, hey, when I did it, it was like this. You ought to try it a different way. You know, you can build off their mistakes a little bit or get a little guidance. But I make $60,000. I got a master's degree and I've been teaching for 20 years. And my ceiling is about to start to pay some of these other people, but did I mention I get summers off? I've had my
The first summer, I graduated law school and I took the bar exam that first summer, so then I worked. And then that next summer came around, that was the first summer that I should have had off. And the day that I realized that I was going to work and some of the guys that I still knew that were in law school were off this summer, that felt terrible.
I
10 years later, I'm getting used to it.
I accidentally worked for 12 calendar months in a row once in my life. I'm 45. No, I've been to putting my 2-week notice sooner and it didn't happen. I got added to the schedule and it ended up with 12 calendar months of employment. It was horrible.
What Sam shared, finding a mentor in an area that you might be interested in or you want to explore. Is it hard because there's so many people like the here sharing these night that want to support him to the next generation? So if pursuing that is super. Any questions? Thank you guys for sharing that. That was amazing. You guys have any questions for them? Because yes. You'll be back to you. Okay, any questions? Okay, I have some. The career that you have right now, I know that you all share that you basically love it. But is it, if you had to do it, or you're all very far into your careers, if you had to do it, what would you do something else? Are you where you want to be? That makes sense. And everyone doesn't have to go in the line, you just want to start with that, you can.
I plan to do something different. Like when I get to my retirement age and when I can get my retirement from education, I plan to go into sales. Like that, my personality is more like I'm really I don't do great lesson things. I don't do great paperwork, you know, but like I'm a people person and in short notice I got a great personality. And I feel like if I can do that, then sales is probably a better fit for me. I don't know what I'll sell. But, you know, but that way I'll have a little bit of retirement and then I can go out and bank out for me and that. But again, hopefully I'll find flexibility in a job like that. Real estate doesn't feel.
Yeah, I think, you know, as far as entrepreneurship goes, it has evolved over the years, you know, on different types of businesses. I've been in 1099 positions where I was technically my own boss, but I was, you know, helping build other companies, and it always revolved around selling to some degree. And that's the part that I really enjoy. I shouldn't say I don't care, but there are things that I've enjoyed selling more than others, but what I'm really good at, and what I appreciate, what I have a passion for doing is like one-on-one with people or connecting with people, you know, and finding out about them, finding out their stories, finding out what matters to them, what they need, and see where I can fill a gap or serve or whatever I may be able to do. A recent endeavor that I just, because I guess I didn't have enough going on, decided to, I recently linked up with National Federation of Independent Business and actually get to go out and talk to small business owners all over East Tennessee and help bring them to an environment where we can protect small business and have them involved in that fight. So that's something I've really enjoyed, you know, and you know, there's been some financial benefit to it, but really it's been something that I've just like seen an opportunity to go out and protect something that means so much to me. And it means a lot for my next generation. You know, if my little guys at home want to be small business owners when they get older, then I want to make sure that they have the freedoms to do that without, you know, kind of government regulation or overreach. So that's something else. And so, yeah, it's kind of evolved, but it's always been in that realm somewhere. And I love it.
I think too, to understand the cost that's associated with what you want to do. Every single thing in life has a cost, right? And the longer you put off any type of decision, the more interest you have to pay on the back end of that decision. So begin to understand what the cost is. Because I promise you, every single person that's up here has spent their own time and their own money just beyond what the basic requirements were to obtain whatever it is that they've got, right? And so that's just one cost. As far as physical health, mental health, what are some of the areas of concern in that area as well? I think is another thing to consider. As far as would I go back and do it all over again? I probably would. That's something I struggled with when I told my dad that I was going to follow in his footsteps. I sent him a text message. It was a new thing back then. And it was clunky, and you had a whole bunch of keys. Yeah, you had a whole bunch of keys you had to type. There were also these stores called Blockbuster, but that's a whole other story. So I sent him a text message, and he immediately called me and said, "Meet me for lunch at this location at this time." And we sat down, and the first thing he said was, "Don't do this." So do not. And I said, "No, this is what I've decided to do." And from that moment forward, he was nothing but supportive. Right, so he initially tried to talk me out of it, and that's probably the exact same way I would handle it. One of my kids came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to be a police officer." Like, yeah, meet me at this place. But at the same time, I would be incredibly proud of them if they chose to. And I think he was coming from a place, he understood the sacrifice and the cost. And I think the other thing, and I don't want to speak for everybody up here, if you disagree, please by all means correct me. But in any line of work, if you want to do things the right way, that's going to separate you in a good way, but it's also going to separate you in a bad way. Because you can get into anything and you can do it the wrong way. You can make shortcuts. You can mistreat people. But if you stand up against those things, then that has a cost associated with it also. And now that cost is worth paying. It's worth the price. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying weigh that cost and then don't do it. No, not at all. It's worth that. It's worth the price every single time to do what's right. But certain careers that can impact you more so than others. So think about that when you're going to choose a career as well.
I think I would still choose this, just because I've always wanted to just help people in everything that I wanted to do. I didn't go to school, I went to school a couple of times. I played soccer in college and thought that was gonna be what I did for life, but that's not. And I also went to school my goodness, social work, and loved that. And that was until we didn't think we were gonna stay here, but I would have enjoyed helping people in that way, but I love helping people, and I think where I'm at right now and the location and everything, it's been very, it's educational for me, just because every deal is different. Every person I meet is in a different situation. So being able to guide people and educate them and help them with one of the biggest purchases of their lives is big for me, and have to do it the right way. Let them know that I'm here to walk you through the biggest purchase of your life, doing it the right way. So yeah, I think I would choose again, just because I enjoy helping people, and this is something that you may not think when you think of real estate, that it's helping people, it's about the money. I think a lot of people think that, but it's not. It's a process. It's a lot of time, a lot of making sure you make the right choices. It's other people's lives on the line that you're dealing with. So it is, it's rewarding. I would choose again.
I would definitely choose this again, like without question. I'm very unique because I have a legal background and also a mental health. So I can kind of work in any field of those two, and they're extremely different, but they're always together. So in my current role, I handle all of the Southeast, and the majority of juvenile justice. Well, all of juvenile justice for the Southeast counties. And we know that a lot of our young people are having those mental health struggles, and they tend to usually kind of go down the wrong path. So now I'm able to kind of step in and try to fix some of those issues. I work very closely with all of our legislators. My job is an appointment, so that means that the governor has to say, "Hey, you're going to do this." I don't know if I got a choice or not. But yeah, Bob tell the picture, yes. But I wouldn't, I'm kind of, you wanted to protect your family, and that's why, and that's the same reason I got into this line of work. I wanted to see the bad, I wanted to know how to keep my babies safe, or how to keep myself safe. So if I know that, then I can protect them. So, but I would do this again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, definitely, but probably just something that I had to figure out how to throttle it back. Because when I joined the Navy, I didn't have a wife and kids. That changes your whole math equation when it's all of a sudden, getting married is one thing, having kids are another. When I deploy for 9 months, the baby is this when I left, and now she's that when I come home. It changes a lot of things. And, yeah, I mean, think why I'd say, I mean, you go in the military, it doesn't matter which service. I mean, you see some crazy stuff, combat, hard work, keeping the shit clean is not a 9 to 5 banker's job. It's an all day thing. But I tell you, what's neat about the military, and I think it is pretty unique, is it is the most diverse organization from across our entire nation. You meet everywhere. You can't say a ship is just from East Tennessee. And that's nothing about East. I mean, it is every fabric of our country. It is so neat to meet so many different people from across this country. And I think deeper friendships get made in the military. I don't know if it's because of mutual misery, mutual fun. It's probably mutual everything, because, some of my wife's deepest friends are because we were deployed and they didn't stick together. They had nothing. They had to get each other through it. And I think that's part of it, is the deepest friends. And honestly, when you have a group of folks who are so focused on something intangible, you kind of have a bond there. And plus I got into stuff, it's pretty hard. It can be hard in the military. Some stuff you got to do, and it makes you look out for each other, no one left behind, and that sort of thing. And I mean, we've moved 12 times in 27 years. So, I mean, that's to your point, you said earlier, it's tough, and not every kid can handle it. Sometimes it makes them stronger. Sometimes, it can make it rougher. But to tell you, I did make a decision to leave. So I did 6 years active duty. I'm actually active reservist. And so I was sitting in Norfolk Naval Hospital pediatric ward because he came home off a 9-month deployment. And even though my firstborn said prayers every night, kissed my picture, she did not know who this monster was kissing her mom. And so she had diarrhea and was throwing up, and they had to put her in the hospital because they thought she was going to dehydrate herself to death. And I looked at my wife and I said, all right, I'm good. I'm done. So I went to reserves. And so it's a thing for you. You can even do the military called part-time. Now, I say part-time, but I got called up in 15 months to go to Afghanistan. So, but you still get the call sometimes, but you can figure out how to try to juggle civilian job, family life, and still do your service to the military. And another way to do it is in the National Guard, So there's a balance way to do it. So, and again, to your question, I did say no about loving it in a way. And so, because it's hard, because everyone was right up here. You don't do anything for the love. Never. Yes, you gotta buy bread and milk. You can't go nothing, but you gotta figure out what you really want out of life and what brings you your passion, what gives you your why. That's a phrase we use a lot. What is your why? And you need a why. And
yeah, I would do the law again, and I'll tell you the main reason why is I'm extremely ADHD. And the nature of my business is that I'll do a transaction, and whatever the problem is, there's got to be something involved in it that I've not had to deal with before. I've got to become an expert on that because my clients expect me to be an expert on whatever it is. I'll give you a brief example. I had a client that was purchasing an apartment complex outside of Augusta, Georgia. And part of the complex was on a former military base that was used as a training facility during World War II. And on the survey for this plat was an old sewer line that nobody knew if it was connected to anything anymore or not. If it was being used, if it was even there, nobody could find any records about it, and it was my job to get to the bottom of it, because my client's bank was not going to lend him money to buy a property with potentially a sewer leak under it at the time they bought it. And so I had not had to deal with that before, especially with the city of Augusta, Georgia, which is all the way out close to South Carolina. And so I had to figure that out, and that kind of satisfied that ADHD desire for new things on that transaction. And that was that deal, and then the next time around, it was, you know, I had a client selling a couple of high-rise buildings here in Chattanooga, and there were different issues with the compliance with the new form-based code. And there were issues that had to get worked out there. And so I have an opportunity to solve problems, which is what I like. And also to solve new problems. I'm not having to do the same thing over and over and over again every day. Which there are jobs that are like that, and God bless the men and women that do those jobs because they're necessary, but they're not. So, yeah, I would absolutely do this all over.
Thank you guys so much. It's 8:04 and I studied the knowledge, so I'm gonna keep you any longer. However, I do want to make sure there aren't any burning questions that you would really just like to ask the audience. Did you make a good question?
When you're in police, you get to choose what you do.
So you can put in for openings as they come available, right? So what'll happen is we have so many canine officers, let's say 4 or 5 canine officers. And then as one of those officers either goes and does something else or retires or gets promoted, then they'll have an opening there. And so anyone that's interested in doing that, you'll have minimum requirements. So you'll have to have been on the street for 3 years, you know, no complaints, no serious complaints in your IA history. Then you can put an application in and you will be interviewed for that open position. And then when that's any open position across the department, homicide investigator, narcotics investigator, anything like that. When it comes to promotions, we have an entire promotional exam process that we go through that can last for several days to test in order to get promoted to the next rank.
No.
Was there anything from the panelists that you would like to share that you need an opportunity to do that? It's very nice.
I'll share one thing that I think would apply to everybody, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. This is something we teach our guys in our coaching program. And we specifically focus on coaching men, but I think the concept is universal. We have an ethos that we believe builds influential men, but I believe it also is a good factor for everyone to focus on. So it's called active. So association. So if you guys are thinking about all the stuff that has been set up here tonight, everybody talked about having a mentor or being in an environment, or being around other people they can learn from. So association, which comes with your physical association, but also content association. Like, what are you bringing in, you know, to your Senscape? Confidence, developing your confidence. You just mentioned that word to me. Like, everybody up here is very confident about what they do, but it's because they have a lot of experience and they've you know, done the time to do the studying and do the work, and they've developed that confidence. Tenacity, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. But I think it would go, my goodness, I would need tenacity to be a teacher. You know, but in every environment, you know, that you have to be tenacious. Integrity, everybody up here mentioned doing things the right way, right? And then vision is to be, regardless if you want to be an employee, an entrepreneur, you know, whatever level of income, you have to have some kind of vision of what your life, you want your life to look like. And then the E is etiquette. And I think that's just something that we could always be good at, is just presenting ourselves well and you know, being a good example to others around us. So that's just something I want to add.
Thank you.
I'll offer one. I tell you, and this is probably unique to the military. I've seen a lot of 17, 18, 19-year-olds come out of their hometowns. Maybe they had a good family or schooling experience. And I tell you, the military has helped so many young people just get their life straight, where even just doing 4 years, not a common pitch, as you might hear called, our contract was 4 years, where it may not, they have no expectation of staying in longer than that. This is not a pretty pitch. Being honest, as the guy who's looked at it backwards, it has provided so much more focus for young people because it got them to think about what they want out of life. And it gave them enough money and structure. The structure is actually more important than the money to get their head thinking, okay, I'm a big kid now. And the military makes me think like a big kid and gives me a little bit of money so I don't screw up. And I tell you, it has done more to center folks than a lot of organizations I've seen. And what's great about it is, and again, I'm not selling anything, is that it gives them enough money to go to college if they want. What's great about it, you keep saying college, that money can go to anything. It can go to become a welder. It can go to nursing school. You get a lot of Cisco and all these certifications. We always say college, but it's for anything. And I just think it's worth it because that's one thing I've seen is folks come out of high school and they go, so what now? And it's a good kick in the pants to just make them grow up and it gives them something to show for it. And they come out. I tell you, I've seen kids, they come out 10 times more mature than they went in. Something about
I'd just like to add, don't be scared to ask for somebody to help you if you're trying to figure out what it is that you like, what your interests are. It could have been, you all could have liked something that any of us up here are doing. If, don't be afraid to ask somebody because we've all been there. We've all had to ask for help. We've all had to ask somebody to train us, teach us, to be able to be comfortable to where we are. So don't be afraid. Don't think that, oh no, they're not gonna want to help me because they're so busy, they do this, they know this. No, when you get to that place, people are gonna be so happy to be able to help and guide you in where you want to go. Whatever it is, and there's so many opportunities and whatever you want to do, so don't be afraid to reach out to ask somebody to help you.
And if someone says no, you don't.
Yeah. You have to clear yes. That no to get you closer to that yes. That person was not the right.
Just kind of speak in generalities around here. You live one time. Okay, and the decisions you make now can echo out into eternity. When you're gone, people won't remember how much money you had, but they will remember how you made them feel when you interacted with them. Right? If you're a teacher, they're gonna remember how you you don't even have to be gone for them to remember how you made them feel. Teacher so-and-so believed in me when my parents did, when my friends did, when I didn't believe in myself. You know, I remember that business owner and how they made me feel when I walked into their shop. I remember that realtor and how she made me feel when she sold me this house and the work she put in. You know, I remember this counselor and how they listened to me when nobody else would. I remember what it felt like to be able to go to bed at night knowing I didn't have to fear some type of foreign attack, or in the worst case scenario, something like 9/11, if there was, somebody had my back on that, and they were going to go fight for me. I remember the protection that my business deal had, or that my family had, or whatever situation you're in, because I had an attorney that was willing to stand up and fight for me. So my thing to you is, how do you make people feel when you're around them? Find that career where you can maximize that influence with everybody else.
So, right away, around the rather than this worker, see what you said. So, anything else? We don't know that.
And Steve. Yeah.
So much for being here tonight. And I'm just gonna leave it to our choice. Actually, I don't think I did your choice. You longer, you can each record for me and send to me in 1 to 2 minutes. This is my name.